Welcome to Standing Up. Welcome to Standing Up, the podcast. The idea of Standing Up is to provide a platform to activists from all over the world to come and share their ideas and to tell us what they're persisting for. All you need to do is look through history to see the tremendous impact activism has had, from the progression of civil rights to women's rights to animal rights. This has all happened because of brave individuals who stood up for what they believed in. I think, though, we're at a very interesting time in history where there's a lot of confusion in activism. I think our world is vastly different, and therefore our methods of activism needs to be revised and revisited. So that's one thing I really plan to discuss on this podcast. I think that we have an opportunity to spread our ideas through social media and the internet faster than ever before, but we are also isolated in our own echo chambers more than ever before. You could have an activist grow a very large audience on social media, hundreds of thousands of followers, likes, and comments, yet are they changing anybody's minds? And really, in order for activism to be effective, we need to be changing people's minds. In addition to that, I think up until now, activism has really been a focus on changing legislation, whether it was the women's suffrage movement to the civil rights movement. I think today, in most of the Western world at least, that most people are equal under the law, but they're not equal because of culture and societal issues. So activism today is often focused on changing culture, not legislation. But I think the strategy to changing culture is much different than to changing legislation, and I don't think activism has evolved to meet those standards quite yet. So that's something I'd like to discuss as well. I'll be speaking to activists from all over the world, but I'll be putting a primary focus on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Being an Israeli who lives in Israel, this conflict is close to home and close to heart. It's a conflict that's been spanning over 100 years, and it affects every single one of us living here. And it often seems like there's no end in sight, so we're going to explore that conflict very deeply. In addition to that, there's going to be a major focus on this podcast on the relationship between women and men and women's rights in general. This is a conflict or an issue that I believe affects the most amount of people, and it's an issue that's very important to me. So we're going to explore that as well. So it's great to have you here. I see this as a learning opportunity for myself and for the audience. And I often think that I know a lot about these issues, but every day I'm alive, I realize how little I actually know. And I'm very excited to learn more by speaking to the people really on the front lines for making change these days. So it's great to have you here with us.